welcome to Plays in Exile, and the second in my deck tech videos looking at Meren of Clan Nel Toth. In this video I'm going to look at adding the ramp options for Meren, and it's a good commander to look at because I'm using a good selection of different ramp options. I'm not really using mana dorks in this particular section, but I am using creatures, I'm using sorceries, and I'm using artifacts. So let's have a look and have a discussion why I've chosen what I've chosen. Let's just start with the sorceries because I think they're the simplest. If you haven't by now already encountered Rampant Growth and Kodama's Reach and Cultivate, you probably will. They are heavily played by any player playing green decks. Rampant Growth is the cheaper of the three, and it lets you search your library for a basic land card, put that card onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. So off we go, get a swamp, put it onto battle tapped, shuffle our library. Kodama's Reach and Cultivate are functionally exactly the same. Kodama's Reach is a little bit rarer and therefore I think is a little bit more expensive, but that's the only reason. They both say search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, reveal those cards and put one onto the battlefield tapped and the other into your hand, then shuffle your library. So not only are they a little bit of ramp, they're kind of a little bit of limited draw as well. So you can go and get 2 swamps, or you can get a forest and a swamp, or you can get 2 forests, and you can put one of them into the battlefield tapped, put one of them into your hand. You've done some ramping, you've got an extra land in your hand to keep your land drops going forwards. Bob's your uncle, as they say. Straightforward, simple, great ramp cards. Next up, let's look at the artifacts. I'm not sure Sol Ring really needs much discussion, but Sol Ring in every single commander deck that there ever has been. Some people say, oh, I don't play Sol Ring, but if they don't, there's going to be a very specific reason they don't. 1 mana, taps for 2, great ramp card, very powerful, especially turn 1, turn 2. Everybody loves a Sol Ring early game. The other option I've chosen here is Thought Vessel. Now I'm going to link my video where I actually do discuss a lot of ramp options in the comments below, but there are many different options at 2 mana that we could be using. We could be using a Signet, we could be using a Talisman. In this case, I'm using Thought Vessel. And the reason I'm using Thought Vessel is because, again, it's got that no maximum hand side option. And I just like having that. I think it's just a personal preference. I think it's the best way to put it. It taps for colorless. It's solid, basically. It's nothing spectacular. Then we look at the creatures that I've chosen. Now, one thing we have to do when we look at the creatures I've chosen is consider the commander that I'm playing. I'm playing Meren of Clan Nel Toth. Now, what Meren says is at the beginning of your end step, choose target creature card in your graveyard. If that card's converted mana cost is less than or equal to the number of experience counters you have, return it to the battlefield. Otherwise, put it into your hand. And the bit I didn't read at the top is whenever another creature you control dies, you get an experience counter. So the more experience counters you've got, the easier it is for you to recur your creatures from the graveyard to your battlefield. So what we're trying to do in Meren is find creatures that can be easily sacrificed. They're either self-sacrificed or sacrificed by a sacrificial trigger. And when we looked at lands in the previous video, I did talk about High Market. High Market, sacrifice a creature, you gain 1 life, so we can use that to do our sacrificing for us if we absolutely have to. But as we go through the videos, we'll obviously introduce various other sacrificial outlets to do this for us. So let's look at my choices of creatures that do my ramping for me and have a chat as to why I've chosen them. Fertilid. Fertilid enters the battlefield with 2+1/+1 counters on it. I can pay to remove a +1/+1 counter from Fertilid. Target player searches their library for a basic land card, puts it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffles their library. So that's basically target player is nearly always going to be me. I get 2 uses of this in this particular deck because I don't have any ways of increasing the +1/+1 counters. And then Fertilid dies. Fertilid dies. By that point, I should have Meren in play. Will give me an experience counter, and then if I've got enough experience counters, it can come back into play, and I can repeat the process. Or if I don't have enough experience counters, it can come back into my hand, and I can cast it if I wish to. Secure Tribe Elder goes one better, and says sacrifice Secure Tribe Elder, search your library for a basic land card, put that card onto the battlefield tap, then shuffle your library. So you can imagine a situation where I've got Meren in play, I've got 1 experience counter, I play Sakura Tribe-Elder, I sack it, that gives me 2 experience counters, go away, get my land. Sakura Tribe-Elder then, at my end step, comes back into play. At that point, or at any point before my next turn, really, I can sacrifice Sakura Tribe-Elder, I can leave him around for cheap blocks if I want to. I can get another land into play, so it's double ramp, and he'll go back to my graveyard, he'll give me another experience counter, and I'm already getting those extra experience counters onto Meren. And the extra experience counters, once I get up to 4, I can do things like recurse Solemn Simulacrum. So Solemn Simulacrum is a forecasting cost artifact creature. So when it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card, put that onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. But when it dies, I get to draw a card. So if I can play it, I get my land card and ramp it, and then I can sack it, it actually counts as draw as well. Proper bona fide draw because it's replaced itself with a card. If I've got 4 counters on Meren, at the end of the turn, it'll come back into play. I'll get another card. I will have ramped twice and drawn a card, all off the back of Solemn Simulacrum. And I can repeat that if I need to very quickly generate me lots of mana and card advantage. Viridian Emissary. When Viridian Emissary dies, you may search your library for a basic land card, put it onto battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. So Viridian Emissary is crying out to either block something and die to trigger Meren and get me a land, or to be sacrificed again to get me a land and trigger Meren. And lastly, we've got Wood Elves. So when a Wood Elves enters the battlefield, search your library for a forest card and put that onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. It's kind of the reverse of Viridian Emissary. Wood Elves only gets a forest card, but it doesn't put it into play tapped. And that's a very important point, because nearly everything else that you've seen there, not nearly, everything else that you've seen there puts it into play tapped. So Wood Elves doesn't. And so that makes it a little bit more expensive. That's why it's probably 2 in the green rather than 1 in the green like the Emissary. But again, I can sacrifice it, bring it back with Meren. It triggers when it comes back into play. I get more I get more lands. I'm ramping. I'm progressing. If you have seen my article on how to build a commander deck based on Hamza, you'll know one of the things I recommend is that you run around 10 forms of ramp. And if we look here, I have got 5 creatures, 3 sorceries, 2 artifacts. So they are my 10 forms of ramp. One of the cards here, Solemn Simulacrum, also counts as a draw spell. And it counts as a draw spell, mainly not just because it replaces it, because if it just replaced itself, if I had no way of getting it back and playing it again and drawing another card off it, then it wouldn't really be a draw spell. It would just be what they call a cantrip, effectively. It would be a self-replacing card. But because of the way Meren works, I can recur it. I can draw more off of it. I can get that little engine going, if you like, and so it does count as draw. So there we go. That's the ramp for Meren in a nutshell. Thank you very much for watching. Join me next time when we look at part 3 of my Meren deck tech. If you have liked what you have seen, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and join me next time.